Welcome to another day of the Art of Meditation Global Summit. I'm Jessica Hornstein. I'll be your co-host for this session on this day of the summit, where we're exploring Vedic meditation traditions. And I have the great pleasure of speaking with Debra Poneman today. Welcome, Debra. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is like my favorite subject to talk about, so I now get to talk about it on a summit.
I'm so excited. I share your excitement. I'm just going to read your bio, and then I know you have so much to share, and I want to hear it all, so we'll get right into it then. In 1971, at the age of 19, Debra spent many months studying with the renowned spiritual master Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and became a certified meditation teacher. Since then, she's taught meditation to thousands around the world and has traveled to India innumerable times to continue her studies with many other great living masters, often meditating for 10 to 12 hours a day for months at a time and in complete silence for weeks at a time. Now, a successful entrepreneur, speaker, author, seminar leader, and in-demand media guest, Debra has clients that include corporate executives, popular celebrities, and New York Times bestselling authors. With students in over 100 countries, through her Yes to Success seminars, she shares the knowledge of how to live profound outer success and abundance based on a foundation of immovable inner silence. Debra is a member of numerous professional organizations, such as Jack Canfield's Transformational Leadership Council and the Southern California Association of Transformational Leaders, and sits on the boards of several nonprofits, including AIDS Still Required, the Communiversity of South Africa, and the Shot in the Dark Foundation. She is also the mother of two fabulous adult children. Her daughter, Diana, is a doctor of chiropractic, and her son, Daniel, is a professional sports agent, Emmy-nominated documentary filmmaker, and philanthropist. And they are both committed meditators. I love that. If you can, train your kids to meditate, then I can't wait to see what you can do for all of us.
Yeah, it's interesting because they grew up in a meditation community surrounded by this world. I mean, it was their world growing up, and a lot of kids who grew up in the same community, now they're adults and they're like, eh.
Oh, yeah.
But my kids love their meditation. They just feel that it's the basis to their success.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. In your journey from a transcendental meditation teacher to a renowned speaker on the topic of success, you've emphasized the power of inner peace. Can you tell us why this is, and can you share how Vedic meditation practice can help us deepen and enhance our inner tranquility?
Yeah, like I say, it's my favorite subject. But, I think it would be valuable to first share just a little bit about my own journey, because it seems that meditation and teaching success seminars are like opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're really not, because what I teach is how to create true success based on spiritual principles. In other words, I show people how to first create inner silence. And once that state of silence is established on the inside, making money and having outer success, having deep, relationships that flow, it's just more effortless. But you're not dependent on those ever-changing things for your happiness and your fulfillment. The fulfillment is already there. So now you can enjoy anything you want because you're not attached to it as your source of happiness. See, after all of those years of long, when I hear you say that I spent, months, 6 months at a time meditating 8, 10, 12 hours a day, I really did that in silence for weeks at a time. I don't know if I could go be silent for hours at a time these days, but after all of those long years of meditation and immersing myself in the knowledge of the East, I discovered the works of the great Western masters of metaphysical thought, like Napoleon Hill and Emmett Fox and Catherine Ponder. And I saw that there is no conflict, but actually together they created a complete package, a complete blueprint to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And at the end of the day, if you're born into a human body, and you choose to live the life of a householder, which is just somebody who engages in worldly activity as opposed to like a monk or a nun or a sadhu, there are realities like kids to raise and bills to pay. So you have two choices. You can live your life not having created a platform of inner silence and experience struggle every step of the way, or you can learn a practice that first creates inner silence, and on the basis of that silence, build your life. And
Mm.
then you would live a happier, more peaceful life, no matter what the world throws your way. See, what most people do is like building a building without a foundation. The higher the building gets, the more likely it is to crumble. But the deeper the foundation, the more the building, no matter how tall it is, it can withstand hurricanes, it can withstand tornadoes, earthquakes. So the analogy here is the deeper, the more profound our inner silence is, the more we can withstand the figurative earthquakes in our lives. It's like the great teacher, Amaji, the hugging saint.
Mm.
She said, now is the time to cling to our spiritual practices so that when the world shakes, we remain unshakable.
Mm.
And you might have noticed the world is shaking. So again, we need a strong foundation of inner silence. And back to success for a second. And the other thing is, please don't pin your happiness on thinking that gaining fame or fortune is going to do it for you. I think your audience knows that by now, because I think if people are attracted to the art of meditation, they're looking for that inner silence. My students, however, have gone on to become millionaires, billionaires, some of the most successful people in the business and transformational world, even household names, using the principles I taught them. But the truth is, maybe they could have created the outer success without learning my yes to success principles and practices. But if they had created the outer success, thinking it would bring them inner fulfillment, they would have been disappointed. So without feeling full on the inside, without the inner silence, the success would at best feel empty. And at worst, it would feel empty and then collapse like a building without a foundation. So inner silence needs to be the foundation of our lives.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes. Yes. And so once you have that, it sort of positions you, I guess, in a way, right? That then what flows from that place
Yeah.
is,
Again, yeah, if you don't have that inner silence and you're grasping at relationships and money and fame, and that's so ephemeral, it's always going to change. But the inner silence never changes. So that's what we have to first cultivate, especially at this time when there are the veritable, I mean, there are physical earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes, but also there are those in our lives. So it's now more important than ever. That's why what you're all doing here is so valuable, the art of meditation.
yeah, is that sort of, you talk about the effortless path, and it sounds like that's what you're describing or what you've touched upon. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So I do teach through the Vedic tradition, which does underscore effortless meditation. But a lot of people teach meditation that they say is from the Vedic tradition, and what they teach is not effortless. And I believe that this is the tragedy of knowledge. The tragedy of knowledge is that the purity of the teaching gets distorted over time. So sometimes what happens is people mistake the ends for the means to get there. So I'm going to explain. In the Vedic tradition, which simply means that the practices are found in the Vedic scriptures, which are over 5,000 years old. And the highest goal in the Vedas and the Vedic scriptures is self-realization. And this can be achieved through many different ways. I mean, from rules of conduct in your life called the yamas and niyamas, physical postures, which of course are asanas, breathing techniques, pranayamas, or meditation, which is the Sanskrit word is dhyana, which is also my daughter's name, Dhyana. And in its purity, the easiest way to get to self-realization is through meditation, because the mind is the most flexible. So I'm going to ask you a question. How long would it take you to get from where you are to New York City with your body? Like
Walk,
if you walked there.
walking
Right?
too long.
Too long, like months, right? Okay. How long would it take you to get to New York City with your mind? I mean, picture the Statue of Liberty.
Right. Instantly.
Instantly, you're there. Okay, so here's what they call the tragedy of knowledge. When you meditate purely with the meditation taught in the Vedic tradition, if you meditate with that meditation in its purity, you get results very quickly. Like, for example, you spontaneously begin to live in the present moment without effort. Your ability to concentrate and focus becomes enhanced. Unwanted thoughts don't constantly bombard you anymore. Your heart is open and you spontaneously are loving and patient and kind. But what happened is that over the millennium, I mean, thousands of years, people started developing techniques that were not effortless because they mistook the ends for the means to get there. So, for example, they see that meditators have a powerful ability to concentrate and to still the mind. So they start teaching techniques of concentration, gazing at a candle flame, pushing out thoughts to get their mind to settle down. Or they watch their breath to get the breath to settle down, or they remind themselves to be in the present moment, to be in the present moment. But that's not effortless. It's not that those techniques don't have value, but sometimes they can even break down the mind body connection. Pure Vedic meditation is a technique that doesn't involve trying to calm the mind or trying to be in the present moment or trying to concentrate. What it does is, but I'll give you an example. Like you're late to work, you spill your coffee on your dress, your partner took both sets of the car keys by mistake, it's pouring rain out. You can remind yourself to be in the present moment or to be loving or to be patient, but you probably want to scream, you probably want to strangle them and for taking the keys. But if you had a technique where the silence never leaves you, no matter what goes on, where you spontaneously see the perfection in all things, even the rain and the keys and the coffee. And you move through life at the pace of we could say the royal pace of an elephant. I take that, right? Would you not?
Mm.
And in pure Vedic meditation, we're given a vehicle called a mantra, which is an ancient sound that, when used properly, the vibration gently and naturally allows the mind to go inward and thoughts disappear as we gently use the mantra. And when our mind settles down, our body settle down. So we don't have to tell thoughts to leave, they spontaneously leave. And when our bodies spontaneously settle down, because the mind and the body are intimately connected, mind settles down, body settles down, we get to a state of such profound rest that our system throws off accumulated stress and fatigue and impressions from weeks and months and years, and yes, even lifetimes. So we no longer react in life based on stored impressions from our past, but we spontaneously live in the present moment. See, now something happens and we react to it. And it could be that the person we're reacting to just reminds us of our uncle who was abusive when we were a child. We're not in the present moment. Everything is filtered through all these impressions in the past. But when you do pure Vedic mantra meditation, you throw off all of those impressions effortlessly and spontaneously. And then you meet somebody and you meet them in the present moment. So with less and less stress on our nervous system, our lives become more and more effortless, more in tune with nature, all the laws of nature, the natural rhythms of the universe. We spontaneously live in the present moment. We're spontaneously loving and peaceful without having to remind ourselves to be so. And that is my understanding of pure Vedic meditation. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Absolutely. It does make sense. And I'm really looking forward to your practice later on, to have a taste of that. Yes. Um, yeah. So it so you speak about discovering one's true purpose or dharma. And in the context of Vedic meditation traditions, and I mean this ties into what you've been saying, but if you could elaborate, how can practitioners use meditation to find their true purpose, and how can it help us align closer with our dharma?
Well, the word dharma, you seem to know what it is, and then most of us do these days, but literally the translation is that which upholds all of life. I see people often use the word dharma synonymously with occupation. My dharma is a writer, my dharma is an actuary, my dharma is a builder, and that's accurate. But dharma is really not just about your vocation, but your dharma is the purpose for which you were put on this earth and how you're going to make use of your God-given talents. Maybe your dharma is to be a life coach or make art or music or be a body worker. That's the DNA coded in your physiology. In when you were born, that's what's coded in your DNA. I'm not coded to be a body worker. I'm not coded to be a doctor. I can't stand the sight of blood. My kids would get a sliver. I'd like, a sliver. But living your dharma is doing what makes your heart sing. When you're not living your dharma, there's an emptiness in your life. I know my dharma is to be a speaker. I know it's to be a meditation teacher. I know it's to be a writer. When I write, when people say, oh, come on, come do this with us, you just sit at your desk all the time, because I'm in my dharma and I love writing and I love speaking. And when you're not living your dharma, there's not only an emptiness, but it actually creates chaos on the subtle levels of creation. If you're a musician and you're not making music, or you have magic hands and you're not a body worker or healer, the pain it causes you radiates out to the planet. In the Rig Veda, one of the Vedas, it says when the dancers are dancing and the writers are writing, the quilters are quilting. It doesn't use those examples, but it does say Papa is the physician, and when Mama throws the corn upon the grinding stone. It's a little sexist, but the point is, it's saying that when we each do our dharma, then it says, when those things happen, there will be a golden age on earth.
Mm.
And everyone has a purpose that they were put on earth to do. So don't let others tell you, what are you doing? There are too many people who do that. Are you crazy? No one makes money being a drummer. I remember I had a cousin who was the most fabulous drummer, but he got talked out of it. And he passed away and never having fulfilled his dharma. And you know your dharma by listening to the impulses of your heart. And when you're given a dharma, you're always given everything you need to fulfill the dharma. You know that Emerson quote, there's nothing capricious in nature, meaning there's nothing tricky in nature. The implanting of a desire indicates that its gratification is in the constitution of the creature who feels it. So when the creator gives you a desire, she also gives you everything to fulfill that desire. The creator isn't a trickster. It's not, well, here's your dharma, but ha, 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 I'm not going to give you the talent to fulfill it. No, doesn't work that way. So just like everything for the oak tree is in the acorn, everything for you to fulfill your dharma is in that desire. The only problem is the Buddha says, we think we have time.
Mm.
We don't know what tomorrow will bring. And that's why we have to start living our dharma today, so we could lay our head on the pillow when our lives are over, and with a smile on our face. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it actually says it's better to die doing your own dharma than to live another man's. That's a quote. So just get going. Don't wait until you think you're ready. We live in a relative universe. There will always be loose ends. The Course in Miracles says, don't be concerned with your own readiness. Just be consistently aware of mine.
Hmm.
So be brave, move outside your comfort zone. All your spirit guides and helpers are cheering you on. God rewards the courageous. And how does Vedic meditation help us align with our Dharma? Again, It's all about two things. Vedic meditation is about getting rid of stress and the impressions from your past, like when your father told you you'll never be successful. See, we live our lives based on all the lies we were told from our parents and our clergy and the media. And when you do things like psychotherapy, you continually put your attention on those lies and analyze the lies. And what we put our attention on grows in our life. So I say meditate, effortlessly get rid of those impressions, and then you'll be free to pursue your dreams and create that foundation of silence. So, and also so that when things go wrong, when your life shakes, you'll spontaneously see the gift and you will not be shaken.
Mm. Yes, it's so important what you're saying because it is, I think, a such a challenge for so many of us, right? That getting in touch with what that really is, what do we really want to do? Because as you say, there are so many messages in the way, and you know, that just block our that internal, wisdom and knowledge of what we're put here to do.
And a lot of people say, well, I don't know what my dharma is. One of the things that I tell people is, what made you happy when you were a kid? I'm going to give you a quick story. My son, when he was a little boy, he loved basketball. He was still holding on. He couldn't even walk, but he was shooting his little, toy basketball into the little basketball net. He loved basketball. And as he got older, yeah, he was on the A team, but he stopped growing at 5'10". His dreams of the NBA were kind of shattered. But the truth is that he still did not want to leave the world of basketball. And we were never the discouragement committee for our kids.
Mm.
If they had a dream, we said, you'll figure out a way to make it come true. And you know what? He, when the kid was 16, he realized he had an eye for talent. And we lived in Chicago, so there was a lot of basketball talent in Chicago, and he would travel to the away games. He started a blog, and he soon became the go-to person for college coaches for high school talent in Chicago. When he was 16, there was a full-page article about him in Sports Illustrated, why college hoops coaches seek the advice of a 16-year-old scout. I
That's
mean, he's the kid. My son discovered Anthony Davis at some little private high school. I don't know if you know Anthony Davis. He's the star of the Lakers. And because we never discouraged him. You love what you love for a reason. So
yes,
don't let the discouragement committee tell you you can't live your dream. And you know what? When you have a dream inside, it also comes with many people who are waiting for you to fulfill your dream because they have contracts in this lifetime to learn the knowledge from you, to take the course from you, to read the book from you. There could be, 100,000 people who write books on mindfulness or on Vedic meditation, but there are people who came into this lifetime to learn from you. So don't worry about how many other people are doing it. They're not you.
yes, that's beautiful. I think that ties in nicely with a question about manifestation, which is, I mean, your son's example was a great example of that. Um, but if you could, tell us a little more. So, considering the rich tradition of manifestation within the Vedic framework, how can one use meditation to really manifest their aspirations, both spiritual and material?
I'm so glad you asked me that because it's one of my favorite questions to answer. So I think I already painted a picture of what life is like on the spiritual level when we spontaneously live in the present moment, when we're not acting based on all of these impressions and all of these lies that were told us when we were children. And when we're in the present moment, we no longer obsess about the past or worry about the future. But it's not an intellectual practice. It's not, I am a meditator, so now I will not worry about the past anymore. No, that's mood making. Okay. It just is. when you do a pure Vedic meditation, those stresses and impressions leave. And but materially, when in Vedic meditation, using our mantra that's been selected for you by a qualified teacher who teaches in the same way that the technique has been taught for thousands of years. When we teach, we pay homage to the tradition of masters who have kept this meditation alive in its purity for over 5,000 years. When you do that meditation, you contact a field which we call the transcendental pure field of pure consciousness, that field of silence that underlies all of creation. When you come out of meditation, you bring that silence with you into your daily life. So I'm going to get around to manifestation, but I want to give this explanation first. Even if you transcend for a moment, you still come out infused with that silence, like a swimming pool. If you jump into a swimming pool for a split second, you come out soaking wet, right? You don't have to stay in there for 2 hours in order
Right.
to be wet. Same thing. You meditate, you contact that transcendent, you come out. And there's been scientific research that has shown, even if you don't feel deep in meditation, your brain waves indicate that, yes, you were in that transcendental field. And that area, just before you transcend, here's the important part, is an area called in Sanskrit, Ritam Bara Pragya. You don't have to memorize it. Ritam means truth. Bara means filled with, full of, and pragya is wisdom. So as the awareness goes from the gross thinking level to finer and finer levels, and then to the transcendent, the experience of Ritampara Pragya is the experience of the finest thinking level before we transcend. And that's the area where manifestation begins, right? We transcend, we come out through that area of Ritam. When we begin to master our Vedic meditation, which when learned from a qualified instructor, you do the first time. You master it the first time. It doesn't take days, weeks, lifetimes to master. And what happens is you become, I guess the word would be familiar with that area of Ritam Bara Pragya. So what happens as you do your practice morning and evening, we desire something and the manifestation is very quick. There becomes less and less of the gap between the desire and the fulfillment of that desire. You know, of course, the great yogis have perfected this, so they desire a mango and a mango appears. I've been with great yogis who have done that. One great woman yogi, Karunamayi, I was with my husband and he said he wanted the blessings of Lakshmi in his life. And, you know, and she was just sitting there with us and she closed her hand started to shake. And she has this beautiful silver Lakshmi and she gives it to my husband. Beautiful. But we lesser mortals, as we do our meditation regularly, we desire the perfect apartment in Manhattan, okay, at a certain price. When you're operating at that level of Ritam, of truth, of knowledge, the manifestation happens increasingly more and more effortlessly. So that's why when I teach my Yes to Success program, I always recommend that people learn an effortless transcending type of meditation as a basis to all of the more material ways that I teach people to create success. Was that clear?
Yes, and it sounds amazing. Absolutely. Yeah. Um,
And it's effortless.
it's yes, incredible,
I mean,
inspiring.
I've taught, as I said, I've taught thousands and thousands of people. I've taught people in their 90s. Actually, I taught one woman who was 103. And then I've taught, 12-year-old kids and younger than that. We have a different technique that we teach them. But I haven't taught anybody who couldn't learn it and master it within just a few quick lessons. So that's the other thing. It doesn't take a long time to master. Maybe to manifest the mango, you have to meditate for a while.
Right. Well, we have
Or the Lakshmi.
teachers, so we can cover that other ways at the moment. Yeah. Um, well, let's just um, look outward a little bit for a minute. And in your seminars, you highlight the importance of selfless service and sacred activism. How can meditation be used as a tool in preparation for such service? And why is that important to our progress along a spiritual path? And can you describe a practice that might embody and support all of this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that when people uh, complain about their like astrological chart, oh, in my chart it says I'll never be wealthy, and my psychic said I'll never meet my soulmate. One of my great teachers, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, of course, was my first teacher. I've studied with many. I mentioned Krunamayi, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He says something that I want people to take to heart. And he said, there is nothing in your astrological chart that enough sadhana and enough seva cannot overcome. Sadhana being your spiritual practices, and I mean, again, I recommend this Vedic practice, this mantra meditation, but there's other things that you can do. I think that's the basis, the foundation. But, do sacred drumming, walk the labyrinth, do japa. I mean, there's so many things that we could do for our sadhana. Do yoga, do breath. I do every day, right? And then seva is selfless service. So those are the two things he said can overcome anything in anybody's chart. So the term sacred activism was actually coined by the great philosopher and author Andrew Harvey. It's also known as spiritual activism, and it's the coming together of spirituality and activism. It's activism that comes from the heart, activism that's compassionate and kind and positive. It's not about being against anything. It's about being for everything. I mean, it's embodied by the quote from Mother Teresa, who, when somebody asked her why she wouldn't attend an anti-war rally, she said, when you have a pro-peace rally, I will be there.
Mm-hmm.
So sacred activism is a way to channel our desire to make a difference in the world that is kind and creates solutions and doesn't add to the problem. I have a quote from Andrew Harvey. I love it. He says, a spirituality that is only private and self-absorbed, one devoid of an authentic political and social consciousness, does little to halt the suicidal juggernaut of history. On the other hand, an activism that is not purified by profound spiritual self-awareness and rooted in divine truth, wisdom, and compassion will only perpetuate the problem it's trying to solve, however righteous its intentions. So basically, what he's saying, when you're feeling like nothing makes sense anymore, sacred activism is having a passion for justice and not just talking to our friends about how bad everything is, but doing something about it. And when we do, we'll experience our own rebirth. And when we put our heads down on our pillow for our final breath, we'll know that we had a life worth living. But the activism has to be based in spirituality. So you can stop being depressed and scared about what's going on around war and division and racism and homophobia and climate change and gun violence and GMOs in our food supplies and the inhumane treatment of immigrants, and say, hey, snap out of it. Wake up, do something. You got to, right? Because not that I want to be spiritually superior, but when you have the spiritual basis, you're the best candidates to go out and do something for the world, because you're not doing it on a foundation of anger. You're doing it on a foundation of love. And Congressman John Lewis once said, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It's the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. I always love that, get in good trouble. But I love that because get in good trouble, but have it be based on the silence inside. Have it based on love and compassion, like the pro peace rally, and not you're wrong and you're horrible and you're the enemy. When we hate the haters, then what are we? We're haters.
Right.
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 Right. We're haters ourselves. But I want to tell you another story about my son. He was living in New York making his documentary on basketball in Chicago, and it was right after the 2016 election. And I was just devastated. A lot of us were. And and again, whatever people's political bents are, I accept it. I love you. We're all doing the best we can based on the knowledge that we have. And again, if you think that person's a hater or that person's wrong, then you're not adding anything to the love in the world. But Dana wrote me this text, and I will never forget it because I think it defines sacred activism. And he wrote me this text, and he said, I memorized it. He said, "Hi, Mom, how are you doing?" I said, "I feel like I'm living a nightmare," because it was 2016 and when Hillary lost, and I can't wake up. And Daniel said, "I understand, Mom. I feel kicked in the gut." And I said, "What are we going to do?" And he said, "I don't know what you're going to do, but I've decided I'm moving back to Chicago. I'm going to give myself one more day to mourn, and then I'm going to channel my disappointment and go all in for the kids in the hood who will now need my help more than ever. What we need to do, Mom, is to work even harder at the grassroots level to do our part and do right by our people." And I said, "Well, thank you, Daniel." And then Daniel said to me, "And after you take a little more time to rage and mourn and cry, then why don't you do what you tell me to do? Find the good that's always there." And then he quoted me, and he said, quote, "There's always good in everything that might not reveal itself right away, but what you put your attention on is what grows in your life," end quote. So he said, "So do what you tell other people to do, because if you don't, that's when we really lose."
Mm-hmm. And that just ties it all together so beautifully, right? Because it's about what you have to offer, right? Your specific, unique gifts and bringing those into the world. Yes.
Exactly right. Doing your dharma, bringing those unique gifts. People are waiting. And any good you do is really sacred activism. But again, it's not waiting for somebody else to take care of it. Go out and get in some good trouble, but have it be based on that inner silence.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Deborah, for everything you've shared today. I'm sure it's inspired so many people. And for those who would like to find out more about you and your work, where can they find you?
Well, I guess the best thing to do would just be to go to my website, which is yes2success.com, YESTO, success.com. It's what you'll find there is mostly information about Yes to Success and my age list. I teach this anti-aging course also. But if you go into the contact section and just write, "Would like information about transcending meditations that you recommend," then I promise I will get back to you immediately. I'm really good at that. And I'll share what I think are the best. And also, I love science because science has now verified that, yes, we do transcend, and yes, we do come out, and there is more of that silence underlying our lives. And so I'll be happy to tell you those organizations that teach these types of meditations that I recommend.
That's very kind and generous of you. And I'm sure our audience will really appreciate that and hopefully take you up on it. So it's really been a great pleasure and honor to have this conversation with you. And thank you so much for being part of our summit.
Well, thank you, Jessica. And it's an honor to be part of the summit. And thank you, Jessica, for spending the time with me and to everybody.
Thank you. Be well.